On paper, your life is improving. Your income is better than before. Your situation is more stable. Some problems that once felt heavy don't scare you the same way anymore. From the outside, it looks like progress. And technically, it is. But inside, it doesn't feel the way you expected. You're not unhappy. You're not struggling the way you used to. But you're also not satisfied. There's this quiet feeling that something hasn't moved with the rest of your life, almost like your circumstances went forward, but your mind stayed behind. This is the part nobody really talks about. We're taught that progress should feel obvious, that when things improve, you're supposed to feel proud, confident, relieved. So when that feeling doesn't come, you start questioning yourself. Why don't I feel better? Why doesn't this feel like a win? Why do I still feel behind? You look at your life logically and tell yourself everything is fine, but logic doesn't erase a feeling. You reach goals that once felt far away. They feel good, briefly, and then life goes quiet again. Not bad, just empty in a way you can't explain. You're moving forward, yet emotionally it feels like you're standing still. And that's confusing, because nothing is technically wrong. There's no crisis, no major problem to fix, just a strange gap between how your life looks and how it actually feels. If you're here, this video isn't about telling you what to do yet. It's about naming the feeling. Because once you realize that this experience is common, it stops feeling like something is wrong with you. This isn't failure. It's the beginning of a different question. And before we answer it, we need to understand why progress can feel this way in the first place. The reason progress feels strange isn't because you're ungrateful. It's because your brain adapts faster than your expectations. Early on, progress feels powerful. More money means relief. More stability means safety. Every small improvement feels like a win. But once things improve, your mind quietly recalibrates. What once felt like success becomes normal. That raise you worked so hard for, your brain gets used to it. That stability you dreamed about, it stops feeling special the moment it becomes familiar. This isn't a flaw, it's how the human mind works. Your brain isn't designed to keep you satisfied, it's designed to keep you moving. So the moment you reach a level, your expectations move with you. The finish line shifts without you noticing, and suddenly the progress that should feel meaningful feels flat. Another reason this happens is comparison. Even when you don't want to compare, your mind does it automatically. You stop comparing yourself to where you started. You start comparing yourself to people who are ahead of you, people online, people you hear about, people whose best moments you mistake for their everyday life. And when you do that, your progress feels smaller, not because it is small, but because you changed what you're measuring against. You didn't fall behind, you just moved the reference point. There's also something deeper going on. When you're struggling, life gives you clarity. You know exactly what you're trying to escape. You know what you're working toward. Survival creates focus. But when stability arrives, that clarity disappears. You're no longer running from a problem, so you're left with a quieter question. What am I moving toward now? And that question feels uncomfortable, because money can remove stress, but it doesn't automatically give meaning. Progress can fix problems, but it doesn't tell you what matters next. So the silence you feel after progress isn't emptiness, it's space. Space you didn't have before. And if you've never learned how to sit in that space, it feels like being stuck. Most people respond by chasing the next upgrade, more income, bigger goals, more pressure. They tell themselves one more level will fix it, but each level feels the same once you arrive. Not because progress is pointless, but because progress alone is no longer enough. Feeling stuck isn't a sign you need more progress. It's a sign you've outgrown progress as your only motivator. And that realization is unsettling because it means the old rules that pushed you forward don't work the same way anymore. And that's where you are right now. Not lost, not behind, just between versions of yourself. At some point, the problem isn't that you stopped progressing. It's that progress stopped being clear. When you were struggling, life gave you a simple direction. Get out of this situation. Fix this problem. Reach that number. Everything had urgency. But now, urgency is gone. And without urgency, your mind doesn't know what to chase, so it creates a new pressure: comparison. You start measuring your life against people who are ahead of you, not intentionally, automatically. You see their milestones, their upgrades, their highlight moments, and suddenly your own progress feels smaller, not because it is smaller, but because the frame changed. You're no longer looking at how far you've come, you're looking at how far others seem to be. This creates a quiet tension. You're doing better than before, but worse than someone else, so nothing feels enough. And this comparison doesn't motivate you, it drains you, because no matter how much you grow, there will always be someone ahead. Another thing happens here. When survival ends, identity becomes uncertain. Earlier, you knew who you were. You were someone trying to improve their life. Now that life is more stable, that identity doesn't fit the same way. So you feel undefined, not failing, just unclear. And the mind doesn't like unclear. It wants labels, benchmarks, proof. So it keeps looking outward for something to measure itself against. That's why progress feels noisy, but direction feels silent. You're moving, but you're not sure why. And when movement loses meaning, it starts feeling like being stuck. This is the phase where many people double down. They work harder, chase more, add pressure, not because they want more, but because slowing down feels uncomfortable. Silence forces reflection, and reflection brings questions you can't answer with numbers. Questions like, what do I actually want now? What matters when survival is no longer the goal? These questions don't come with urgency, they come with patience, and patience feels unfamiliar to a mind that grew through pressure. So if this phase feels heavy, it doesn't mean something is wrong. It means the old motivators are losing power, and something quieter is trying to take their place. That's not a setback, it's a transition. There's a moment nobody prepares you for. The moment after stability, when the noise finally quiets down. No urgent problems, no constant fear, no immediate pressure. From the outside, this looks like success. But inside, it feels strangely empty. Not because something is missing, but because something stopped shouting. When life was unstable, every decision had weight. Every step mattered because survival was on the line. Stress gave your days structure. Now that stability has arrived, that structure disappears, and silence replaces it. Silence is uncomfortable if you've never lived with it before, because silence doesn't tell you what to do next, it just waits. In that waiting, you start noticing things you didn't have time to feel earlier. Uncertainty, restlessness, a low-level dissatisfaction you can't point to. You're not running anymore, but you don't know where to walk. So the mind searches for something familiar. Deadlines, pressure, goals that recreate urgency. Not because you need them, but because they make the silence go away. This is why many people mistake stability for boredom. They think something is wrong because life feels less intense, but intensity was never peace. It was just constant stimulation. Stability doesn't excite the mind, it reveals it. And what you're feeling isn't emptiness, it's the absence of noise you once depended on. That's why this phase feels heavy. You're no longer distracted, you're present, and presence brings questions that can't be solved quickly. What do I care about when no one is watching? What does a good day look like without pressure? What am I building now that survival isn't the goal? These questions don't demand answers, they invite honesty. And honesty takes time. So if stability feels silent, that doesn't mean you're stuck. It means life finally gave you space. And space always feels uncomfortable before it feels free. If you've made it this far, nothing about you is broken. You weren't wrong for chasing progress. You weren't naive for believing that stability would fix everything. It fixed what it was supposed to fix. It removed pressure. It reduced fear. It gave you room to breathe. What it didn't give you was direction. And that's not a failure. That's the moment external progress reaches its limit. From here, progress becomes quieter. It's no longer about proving something. It's about choosing something. This is where many people feel lost because there's no obvious path, no scoreboard, no urgency pushing you forward. So you have to learn how to move without pressure, how to grow without panic, how to define enough without treating it like the end. Enough for now, enough to pause, enough to decide intentionally. The shift isn't dramatic, it's subtle. You stop measuring your life by how fast it's moving and start measuring it by how honest it feels. Decisions feel lighter, not because they're easy, but because they're yours. You begin to notice different wins, saying no without guilt, enjoying progress without immediately chasing more, choosing rest without calling it laziness. These moments don't look impressive, but they change how life feels. And that's the kind of progress that doesn't disappear overnight. So if you still feel stuck sometimes, that's okay. Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. Feeling stuck isn't the opposite of progress. It's part of it. You weren't meant to stay in survival mode forever. You were meant to arrive here, at a place where growth isn't forced, it's chosen. And once you see that, the question changes. You stop asking, why do I feel stuck? And you start asking, what kind of life do I want to build from here? That question doesn't rush you, it invites you. And that's how you know you're not stuck anymore. You're transitioning.